Hello, I'm Harry Stachini and you are listening to the Staff Room Podcast, the show where each week I share anonymous stories from teachers who are overworked, underpaid and close to a mental breakdown. So think of it as teacher therapy, as they remind us of all the troublemakers, class clowns and the flat-out criminals we all remember from school. So join me and my guests and hear what your teachers really have to say. And we're off, episode number 16 of the Staff Room Podcast. How's it going, everyone? Hope you're well. I'm nearly out of isolation as of tomorrow when this comes out. I'm back into the big wide world, and it's not been so bad the second week. First week was a little bit cranky, a little bit on top of each other, me and Poppy. But then the second week, we bought swing ball, right? And I can't recommend it enough. Like, it's the best £30 we've ever spent, because whenever things have gotten a little bit too much, you get a little bit cranky, a little bit bored. We've just gone outside and absolutely twatted a ball at each other for about half an hour. And the level of endorphins that are released when you're doing that, I can't recommend it enough. I think that's probably up there. Probably one of the most underrated couples therapy that could ever be used. I genuinely believe, like, the amount of relationships, marriages that could have been saved if they got hold of a swing ball. Like, if my mum and dad had one, they'd probably still be married now. That's how good it is, you know? So if you're a child of divorce and you're thinking, hey, I'm going to get married further down the line, first thing you want to buy is a swing ball, right? That will get you through the tough times. It'll even see you through the good times, you know what I mean? When you're both happy as Larry, you're outside. But when things are tough, you're isolating, you're on top of each other, get yourself a swing ball, and then you won't have to FaceTime your kids on a weekend, right? That's my recommendation for the start of the podcast. I bet everyone that's tuned in's gone, I was not expecting that. Harry's got a lot off his chest. But seriously, great fun. We do best of three, and we're both pretty good at it as well. So our forearms are like rock, just absolutely battering it. Neighbours must be thinking God knows what, because we don't really make much noise while we're doing it, but the sound of the ball as it hits the racket is very loud. So, yeah, swing ball, can't recommend it enough. Amazon, 30 quid, be the best money you've ever spent. And if you've got to isolate, if you've not got a garden, stick it in your lounge. I can't recommend it enough. It'd be even worth moving stuff out of the room to put it in there. Okay, that's how serious I am about swing ball. In fact, I'm going to go and invest in it as soon as I finish doing this intro for the podcast. That's how important I think it is. But yeah, enough of me talking bollocks. What I do want to say, genuinely, is hello to all the new listeners in the USA, because I've noticed over the past week or so, the numbers in America have been like just jumping up bit by bit. And hello to people in Virginia, California and Texas. They seem to be the top 3 states where people are tuning in. And I'd love to know where you're hearing about this podcast, because I definitely don't know anyone in the States that works in a school. Or in fact anyone in the States at all. But yeah, thank you very much for tuning in. I've even noticed on the list of states, Alaska's on there. It's like third from the bottom, but Alaska, I didn't even know you could get the internet in Alaska. But if you are a school teacher in Alaska, please do send a story in, because I'd love to know what it's like to teach out there. Have you got like one about when a polar bear got onto the playground, that type of thing? Obviously, if none of the kids were maimed, then yeah, I don't want any like death and stuff like that. But yeah, tell me what it's like teaching in Alaska, if you are in fact a teacher, or if you're not, just say hello, because I'd be curious to know who is listening out there. But yeah, hello everybody. Hope you're doing very well. I've got a great episode lined up for you today, because my guest for today's episode is Mr. Rich Wilson, who is a fantastic comedian and definitely one of the best MCs in the country, right? Like he does a lot of hosting overseas and on the UK circuit, but he's an absolute dynamite MC and award-winning comedian as well as podcast host. Because a few years ago, Rich actually started a podcast which is called Insane in the Men Brain, where he gets very recognisable people, whether it be comedians, writers, poets, performers, just very interesting people to come on his podcast and talk about their experiences of mental health It's honestly absolutely brilliant. It's very funny, it's touching, it's charming, and Rich is a fantastic host on it. Some very recognisable people on it as well. You know, they've had like James Acaster, Ramesh Ranganathan, Jen Brister, Simon Evans, Dane Baptiste, Darren Harriott, just to name a few. But definitely worth checking it out. So if you're looking for a new podcast, do add that to your list, Insane in the Membrane. But yeah, really, really excited to have Rich on the show. Not only for the fact that he's a very funny guy and a lovely fella, but also because the story that I've got today has come in from a teacher about parents' evening. And in a word, I would describe this story as honest, right? It's very funny. It's definitely very fair, but it is 100% honest, because I think it gives everyone a very good insight into what a teacher really thinks but doesn't say in them situations. And you get to see it from their point of view of how it actually makes them feel, you know, the stuff they've got to deal with. So I wanted to get Rich on the show for the fact that I know he's a dad, you know, he's a father, he's got 2 boys, so he's been through many parents' evenings in the past, some good, some bad, and I think it's a perfect combination of guest and story. So thank you very much for the teacher that sent this one in, because I think it's made for a very, very good episode. And massive credit to you, because I think through this story, you're giving people not only a good insight into what teachers feel about it, but also your personal perspective on it and how you handled quite a difficult parent. But we will get into all of that within the episode. So without further ado, we will get cracking. This is me, Rich Wilson, and an honest insight into parents' evening. Enjoy. I tell you what, I was just having a look at on your Twitter before we got on this. You've been doing quite a lot of radio, haven't you?
Yeah. We do a thing the tuned up time machine on Islington Radio. Yeah, and it's brilliant. I love doing it, and it's really cool, man.
Is it like an extension of stand up in a sense that, you know, because you're very conversational on stage, but obviously you can't be like, you know, effing and jeffing. But like, do you find it's a bit of an outlet in that sense, like comedy is?
Well, I'll tell you what, it because I MC a lot. And I've MC'd over the years. I've MC'd for many years. It's just me doing that. I'm just MCing, and because it's on an app, it's on the Mixcloud app. You can say what you want. You can do what you want.
Oh, right.
It's very, very, yeah. It's very much like the old days of like pirate radio. You can do what you can play whatever you want. You can say what you want. I mean, it's because there's sometimes we get into it and we have a laugh and we're taking the piss. And then we go, this is going to get us banned. But then Tom Wright, who runs this radio station, every week you send it in, he goes, mate, he goes, this is brilliant. Yeah, love it. So it's real. I love music. I love music more than I love comedy.
Really?
And yeah, and I love comedy. I adore comedy, but I love music more. And so to be able to pick like these playlists every week, oh man, it gives me so much joy. That's lovely.
That's a good combination, isn't it? What is it about music then? Like, have you got quite an eclectic taste, or is it just a case of what draws you to it?
I've always been surrounded by it. It's always like growing up. My parents there wasn't any sport around. My parents weren't into sport. It was always music. So they were always buying records, and we were always going out. And so I was surrounded by Queen and Bob Dylan and the blues and soul music and rock music, and I just grew up just surrounded by everything. And so now my taste, if it's good, I'll listen to it. You know, I'm not really fussed about. Yeah, I mean, you know, when I was younger, like I was a bit of a mod, and then when Oasis came along, I was into that and used to dress like Liam. Like I was obsessed. I just thought they were so cool. You look back and you go, oh, you knobhead. But this is the thing now, because now we've got the football, and part of me is I'm kind of sad that, because everyone, if you don't talk about the football at the minute, the Euros, no one wants to talk to you. No one wants to talk. They're just like,
I wasn't going to bring it up, mate, but you know what I mean? It's I actually pride myself in the fact I'm not one of them guys that I was at a family do a couple of weeks ago and met like a family member of someone else, right? And it was like an atypical geezer, right? Just like, you know, I think his name was Tony. That was it, Tony. And he, within the second or third sentence, he was like, "So is your team then, you're red or a blue?" And I said, and I thought, let's have a chat about something else. And I actually said to him, I answered his question and then didn't ask him who he supported. And he was like, I'm a West Ham fan. And I was like, oh, nice. I said, so like, how do you know these lot then? Like, you know what I mean? I'm not going to go, what a great season you had. It was just like, I'm not about that, mate.
Mate, I'm the same. I have to, because of it's like you because of your accent, people assume.
Yeah.
And with my accent as well, straight away, the first question I always ask is, what's your team?
Yeah.
And when I say, are you, normally I'll say, I don't really follow football, mate, to be honest. But if I'm aware that that's all they've got and that's all they want to talk about, then I'll just go, I'm Palace, mate.
Yeah.
And not even Crystal Palace, I'll go Palace. And then they go, because you've shortened it to Palace, there's this subconscious thing that goes, he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And then they go, oh yeah, they've had a, what is it about Palace? Like they do all right, they do this. And I go, I know, mate, I know. They're just up and down. No idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I don't frown upon people that just hold on about football all the time, but I just think, yeah, come on, let's. Everyone's got a soft side to him. Let's talk about that,
Yeah, exactly. It's like anything else. But there's a comedian called Luke Stephen, and he messaged me the other day, leaving me voice notes, and he's like, I just want to check in on you, mate. I hope you're all right. He goes, I've just seen Gareth Southgate's speech to the nation, and he goes, oh mate, he goes, it made me cry. I was crying. He goes, I can't think of anything else but the Euros. Oh my god! I'm listening to this and I'm like, what? It can't be that important, but people just lose their minds.
Yeah, mate. Yeah.
Lose their minds. Yeah, and part of me is kind of sad that I'm not. It's like 1% of me is like, oh yeah, but the rest is like, no, I don't care.
Yeah, but it's you, innit? You as a person, different to everyone else. But then, I suppose then, when you were in school, because the story I've got today has come in from a teacher about their thoughts on parents' evening and a few little anecdotes along the way, right? So, when you were in school, did you ever have any like moody parents' evenings? What were you like? Because I imagine you were probably a bit of a cheeky chap. But
this is the thing. People assume because you're a comedian that you were the class clown, and you got booted out of school in like the third year or whatever it was because you kept coming in with a big red nose and mucking around. I was pretty shy at school. I kind of kept my head down, and I'm part of a group. I'm part of a group on Facebook called. I went to Ramsden Boys School because that's where I went. And I see all the names and I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember them. No one remembers me.
Really?
Yeah. I'm kind of, it's a weird one.
Have you ever been to like reunions or anything since?
Nah, never. No, never.
I don't think I'd be entertained by the idea of going to one of them in the future.
Well, this is it. It's like, I'm still friends with the people that, the people that were my mates back then. And there's two of them, the rest are like, they're good people, but we've got nothing in common. And they've never moved away from where they are. They still live in the same street or they live like round the corner from where they grew up. And I'm not knocking them for that. That's up to them. But, there's a lot of them peaked at school, like the ones that were the cock of the school.
Yeah.
And that was that. I remember seeing there was one of them and I used to admire him so much. I used to copy the way he dressed. I used to think he was so cool. All the women loved him. All the girls loved him.
All the women, all the girls, teachers, faculty.
Yeah, everyone loved him. He always had the best shoes. He always had the right stuff. And then I was in a nightclub about 20 years ago in Bromley called Langtry's. And with my mate, we went in there for a laugh. We've been out drinking and me and my mate went, should we go Langtry's like we used to when we were kids? So we go in there and we're already hammered. And at the bar was that fella on his own. Just on his own, and it just shattered all my dreams. It's like when I don't know if you've ever seen the film Quadrophenia, and there's a Sting plays the main guy, the ace face,
right? Okay,
and Jimmy the Mod just sees him and like, he's the man. Oh my god! And they end up in this fight with the Rockers, and then they have to getting arrested together, and it's all he's the coolest, and then he goes back to Brighton to find him. And he sees him and he finds out that this ace face is actually a bellboy in a hotel. And he's like running around with these bags behind these posh businessmen. And and it just shatters that's what happened with this guy. I was gutted. I was so gutted.
So hang on, just to get a timeline on this. How old are you, Rich?
I'm 49.
49, right? Okay, so this is school like
I left school in 1988.
1988, right? Okay, because I had I've not that I thought you were older, but I've basically had a teacher get in touch with me who submitted a story that I thought I can't really share that because it's from the 70s.
Oh man!
And it's funny, but I thought I'll use it maybe in the future once I've developed. I've got a nice little following of people that enjoy the podcast, but you know what I mean. I won't put it out as episode 1. But he spoke to me on the phone and said he was actually told during his teacher training. This is in the 70s. They were told on training to smack the kids before 3 o'clock because it wouldn't leave bruises come home time. Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I remember that. I remember being there. I remember one of the teachers saying, "Oh, it's good in the summer when all the little boys have got their shorts on because it hurts more when you get smacked."
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. But what would happen is you'd go home and you'd go out, and mum and dad would go, "How was school?" And you go, "Oh, I got a smack for," and they go, "Why? What did you do?" And it wasn't even like, that's outrageous, I'm going down there. It was like, well, you obviously did something to deserve it. It was just different times.
Yeah.
Just how it was.
I think
there was always the threat of violence from someone. You were going to get a clip around the ear from somebody at some point.
I think that always. I'm not advocating twatting kids, right? I'm not saying that, but I think there is an element of, more so now anyway, there's less fear. Right, okay. Even, you know, if you think of like people don't really fear the police over here because they'll just stick a camera in your face, right? If you think of like a teacher saying, you stop doing that, they're just going to be like, what are you going to do with your lanyard? Yeah, exactly. Go on, knock me out with the dinner bell. Fuck off. You know, there's they're not going to take it, are they?
No, that's it. That's like you say, there isn't that fear. I mean, I used to be, you know, you'd be terrified of adults. You know, you just, you know, because that's how it was. There was just this air of violence that if you fucked up, you were going to get a smack or something bad was going to happen to you.
I go to their teachers. He's got a boxing bag in his office, having a warm up before they come in.
Yeah, he's got his nylon bloody tracksuit on there when he walks down the corridor. All the kids stick to him like balloons. Yeah,
a towel on his head. Like, let's go.
Get ready to go. Right, in Wilson. I do remember that I got taken into there was a chain link fence that went all the way around the playground, and we'd been hanging off of it when we were playing football. And I remember all the pins came out of it, and so the fence started to buckle and fell down. We ended up, loads of us were like bouncing on this fence, right, all the way along. There was loads of us, and then 5 of us got taken into the headmaster's office because we were seen as the ringleaders for messing the fence up. So we all stood in a line, and we all stood there, and the teachers walking up and down. The headmaster is going, "I just don't know what it is with you boys." Now, when I was at school. Can I just talk about anything on here?
Whatever you want. Whatever you want.
Right. So to get a blowjob was to call.
First time that's been mentioned.
It's an all boys school,
right? Okay.
But we used to say it used to be called to suck seed. Right. That's what it used to be, right. That's what it was called. So we're on a line in the office, and the teacher's walking up and down, and he's going, "You boys," he goes, "You had so much potential, and now you're just chucking it out the window. You've ruined the fence. You're always getting in trouble. You're always doing this, doing that. What's the matter with you boys? Don't you want to succeed?" I died. I bit my lips off, trying not to laugh. Because then they'd say, "What are you laughing at?" And I didn't want to tell him.
Yeah, that's hilarious. That succeed. So so you'd say like, "Oh, my mate succeeded last night."
Yeah, there was all that. Yeah, so you've been succeeding.
That's hilarious. What would have been more alarming is if you went, "Don't you want to succeed?" and then under his zip, and you're like, "Whoa." Like this.
Yeah, right. Two options, lads.
Yeah, I'll just miss my dinner. It's fine. I don't want to do that. Mind you, though, okay, as a parent, you got 2 boys, right?
I do, yeah.
So your lads at school, did you ever have to attend parents' evenings where you thought, oh, right, this ain't good reports, or, have to deal with teachers in that way?
Yes. So I've got two lads. They're 23 and 29 now.
Right, okay.
So there's like 5 years between them or whatever it is. And I remember my eldest was the top of the school. Like he was great. He was great at basketball and he was great at this and great at that. And his photo was one of the photos in the lobby when you came into the school.
That must be cool.
You had the pictures. Yeah, so it was him playing rugby. And so my youngest, I think, felt like he was always in his shadow, so that he was always compared to. So Bailey's the youngest, Keanu's the oldest, and I think Bailey was always compared to Keanu, and they're different human beings, so it's not fair. Bailey's more into his music and Keanu was more sporty. And so I think Bailey kind of started to rebel against that. And I got taken into the school because Bailey he'd built a weapon that he'd been chucking at people.
Right, okay.
And it was he'd got some triangle bits of card. I can't remember what he put in the middle of it, but then he'd wrapped it all in gaffer tape. So he had this black triangle that it was just luzzing at kids. And I'm like, if you need attention, speak to me. I don't want you killing people. And I did. There was a moment I'm like, I hope he's not going to be a serial killer. That's like that.
That's hilarious.
No, this is terrible. I'm such a bad dad.
So, how long was the thought on? I'll tell you what, we've not got a Peter Sutcliffe on our hands here.
I just kept an eye on him.
Just kept an eye on him. And tools away from him.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm making sure there weren't any dead birds and shoeboxes under his bed and things like that.
So then,
dealing
with teachers then, like parents evening, were you someone that because I see it now, and it kind of mentioned within this story, we've kind of touched on it briefly. When you were a kid and you got bollocks, your parents would side with the teachers. You must have done something. I think there's more so now where parents are willing to challenge a teacher and be like, well, you know, they've said this, and it's like, why would I make something up about your kid for the benefit of, what benefit is that? So, but were you ever in situations where you either questioned the teacher and thought, hang on a minute, that's not the full story, or was it a case of like, I understand, right, and I'll take the scissors off him?
I always, up to a point, for years, I just assumed that all grown-ups knew everything. You just go, the grown-ups seem to, they know what's right and what's wrong, and if a grown-up says something, then it's true. You don't realise that now when you're a grown-up, you go, they're all lying, they're all blagging it, they're all lying.
Yeah.
They didn't know what they were doing. Half of them were just, they had terrible home lives, like they'd had a shit upbringing, or, they were just, they weren't happy at home. A lot of them were alcoholics. It was a mad old time. So I did, So whatever the teacher said was gospel. It was like that's the truth, and that's whatever a teacher said. And I just remember the day I turned around and went, "No, I'm not listening to you anymore. I think you're an idiot." I had a job in the evenings after school in a butcher shop. I used to go down there and clean all the stuff. And I was late coming in the morning because I had a paper round in the morning, and I was never up early enough for it. I was always late. I was always running around. And then I remember saying, he said, "Right, you're late. You're going to stay late for detention tonight." And I went, "I can't. I've got to go and do my part-time job. Can I do it on Monday?"
Yeah.
And he went, "No, you're doing it tonight." And I went, "No, I have to work tonight." And he goes, "I don't care what you have to do. What you have to do now is be in school on time." And I went, "Oh, go fuck yourself." And and I stormed out of the classroom, and I went up there, and I remember walking out of the classroom, and I was walking up the corridor going, "Oh my God, what have I done? What have I done?" Oh, God. And I got suspended for a week for telling him to fuck off.
Wow, mate, that's where I am now. If you tell a teacher fuck off, you probably miss maybe a day. I've mentioned it on other podcasts, but I had a lad threaten to stab me up with a pair of scissors a few months ago.
No.
And I was just like, he wrote, "I will kill you" on a whiteboard. And
you've got to check his hard drive, man.
Yeah.
That's going on.
I was just like, right, okay. I said, you've just threatened me there. And he wouldn't speak. He just communicated via the whiteboard, which made it even more intense.
Whoa, mate. How did you keep it cool? How did you keep it together? I bet you were shitting it. I would have been.
No, to be honest, I've had a kid come at me with a screwdriver and all sorts. So I just went on my dinner. It was like, my dinner's in 5 minutes. So I said, miss, do you want to deal with so-and-so?
Oh my God.
Yeah, but I came back. He's the lad. Like, people understand he's got a bit of a temperament at times. But afterwards, he was like, "Yeah, really, really sorry. I shouldn't have said that." And I just made a point of going dead straight with him. Do you think if you were coming at me, right, and making a threat for my life, I said, do you think, because he's a year 6 boy, I said, do you think as well, an 11-year-old boy, if you were going to fight me, I'd let you hurt me? And I said, if I thought you were going to kill me, and he was like really quiet, and I said, because if I was fighting a grown man as an 11-year-old boy, I said I'd want to make sure, like that person isn't going to know what's happening. I said, because I'm stronger than you. I said, so, if you put me in a position where I feel threatened, I said, I'll kick, bite, scream, gouge your eyes, you know what I mean? It was like, and it's not a case of me going, I'm promising I'm going to do this, but, if someone attacks me, mate, I'm not going to be going, there's a smiley face chat. How do you feel? Let's work our way down, right? Let's get ourselves down to 0.
Giving him the chat cushion and go, that's your turn to speak.
Exactly. Yeah, mate, I'll put the head on you, right?
This is life lessons. This is what school needs to teach you, is that if you don't know who you're coming up against. And so if you're a little fella giving it a big one, you don't know what the other person's capable of.
Yeah.
And you don't know what they're going through, you don't know what mood they're in.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. Afterwards he apologised and all the rest of it. But that's the and the parents were very understanding on my part,
I guess they does it all the time.
Yeah, but that was my approach, like just being very honest with him. Like, if you did this outside in the street, what do you think the reaction would be? Or if you did this in secondary school, like if you did that to a year 9 in secondary school or a year 10, they'd lamp you. They would.
Exactly. They'd snatch that screwdriver off you, mate.
Yeah.
And shut.
Yeah. But yeah, and that just awful. But I'll get cracking with this story, right? Okay. Hello, the staff room, and then it says parents' evening in capitals, which I feel that means that they're quite passionate about it. These events instill fear in teachers for a lot of different reasons. Every school does them differently, but normally they're added on to the end of a day, and you're expected to be there. Unsurprisingly, it's the PE teachers, especially the younger ones, who the parents look forward to seeing the most. For years, I've seen yummy mummies swooning over young golden balls. However, PE teachers do have an advantage, as their legs are always on show. Now, I can definitely relate to that, because the PE teacher in my school was loved by everyone. Mr. Glover was his name, and he just, handsome man, but all the mums loved him, and he did have a good set of pins. But I know on episode 2, Pete Selwood said he had an art teacher who had the longest queue on parents' evening, and he was like, who gives a shit about art? But this guy was very like bohemian, and people loved him. But so why the fear, you ask? Here's a few reasons. 1, you have to face up to the fact that if the kid is a cunt, so is the parent, right? It must... it must come from somewhere. Little Larry doesn't like your subject. His dad rocks up wearing a fake Rolex, designer gear and white trainers. You're talking and he's elsewhere in his mind. 2, the yes parent. Your kid did this, they need to do that. Yep. Do you know what? You're right. But the minute they get back to their seat, not even in their car or waiting until they get home, they'll say, don't listen to him. You focus on your PE and your maths. Which I think, true. There's a lot of people that can be, that's not an important subject. It's like, I'm pretty sure you need English, right? 3, you've bollocked a kid, and quite rightly so, and the kid has told their parents the wrong reason for why they've got into trouble. Honestly, Mum, those fags were planted on me, right? Seriously, Dad, I didn't swear at them. Yeah, that type of thing. Grandma, I only called him a twat because he gave us extra homework, right? They're on the warpath, I'm telling you. you've got 5 minutes to talk about their progress, and you know all this is going to be spent on is what they did and didn't say in your class, right? It's a total waste of time. 4, you've not read the individual report on a kid about how they have X issues or Y conditions, and you're expecting them to use a pen and paper like everyone else in the real world. So mum has come in to remind everyone about this and how they need to sit next to the window, have a TA and regular rest breaks. What makes it worse are the parents who self-diagnose their kids, right? It's rife.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
And I can 100% relate to that because it was something I actually thought about over lockdown for like a piece of material, okay? Because I've been worked in schools for like 3.5, 4 years. And I work one-to-one with kids that have either behaviour problems or SEN, right? So like special educational needs. And I've worked with like a whole range of kids, you know, so some that are like teenagers, all the way down to like year 3. But most of the time, I'm working with lads that are like upper stage, key stage 2. And put it this way, when other kids notice that the lads you're working with get like certain requirements, right? Whether it be, I don't know, like they get to go out of lessons a little bit earlier, or they get a little bit of this, or they get a little bit of that. You see other kids start to like act up because they think, well, if they're getting that, then if I do this, I'll get that as well, right? And then things are being put in place because the kid either has something like ADHD or, you know, something like that. But the amount of parents that have either been privy to the conversation or have said to me, we think he's got this in front of their kid, right? And I'm a bit like, right, there's a difference between thinking and having, okay? Because even the kids that do have it, okay? So I said before about the lad who threatened to do me with a pair of scissors, right? He's got some stuff that he's got a condition essentially. But when he acts up, he will use his condition as an excuse. Okay.
Yeah.
So like, well, I only did this because I've got that, and it's like, yeah, but you can't saddle your behaviour onto that. Like, it doesn't make it acceptable. Then, you know, it's like Peter Sutcliffe had some issues, right? But you know, they're not going to be like, do you know what, mate? Forget the 13 people you put the hammer to the head to. We'll let it slide.
But it's your ADHD. Blood sugar levels were low that day.
Yeah. And that whole idea of, you know, like he's got ADHD. It's like, no, he's a kid. You know, he's got loads of energy, and you know, he lives on Skittles, so he's absolutely fine. But yeah, I feel like the label's a big thing for a kid to carry, right? So as soon as a kid hears that, they've got to then carry that. And if you're throwing that around willy-nilly, I just don't think it bodes well for anyone long term. Because, you know, you don't want a kid to have like ADHD, ADD, conduct disorder, autism. And it's like, you know, the only thing he's not got is GCSEs. You just like...
I'll tell you what though, all this at the moment, everybody's, you see it online all the time. And people go, oh, I've just been diagnosed with this, or I'm diagnosed with that. And you go, oh, I'm sorry that that's happened, you know. But you don't, but then a lot of it is making flaky people more flaky. Yeah. Like they're already, like, just because you've got this or that, they go, oh yeah, I'm really sorry. I couldn't go in the end because of blah, blah, blah. And you go, no, you're just an arsehole. Yeah. You just didn't want to go. You had me waiting for 2 hours, and then you can, oh yeah, but you know, I'll go fuck yourself.
Yeah, but that's true. You're right. I think if you've got a condition, right, or you know, a learning disability or whatever, right, you've got to take responsibility for it. You know, and I think that's the case. Even if you've just got an attitude problem, you've got to take responsibility for it. So,
just arsehole. Just admit it.
yeah. But all well and good saying you've got it, but just don't be saddling your bullshit to it. So I can understand.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. It's like, look, I get it, but if you don't want to do something, then just say, or just tell me. Oh, listen, I got up late. I didn't get my arse in gear. I'm running a bit late. Just say that. But don't go, oh, I had a bit of a moment, an episode, because no, you didn't.
Matt, when you...
This sounds terrible. It says I don't care. I do a mental health podcast, and I do care. Of course I care.
Yeah.
But don't take the...
Yeah, just don't be late.
Yeah, just if you're going to be late, ring me and go, mate, you know what it's like. I go, yeah, I know what it's like. Yeah. Don't worry, I'm late anyway. So, you know, we can all get along.
Yeah.
We can all get along.
That's... My mum reminded me of a lad I went to school with who, I won't say his name just in case he is listening, but essentially he had a nickname that rhymed with poo, right? And I don't really. I remember him in primary school just being a little bit odd, right? But nothing distinctive. But my mum said she was on like a school trip helping out, and she was the leader of the group that I was in, and this lad who rhymes with poo was in the group, and he'd run off, right? And my mum was like shitting it because she's thinking, I've lost someone's kid here. When he came back, she was like, didn't rollick him, but just went, you can't run off because, it's like you're scaring me. And if something happens to you, who do you think they're going to look at? Because it's not Harry, It's like, I'm the one who drove it. All right. So when she was saying this to him, he just had a meltdown and started like scratching his face, right? Like really bad because he couldn't deal with what was happening. And my mum had said to me that apparently I had said to her, what have you done to oh, fucking hell. What? My mum said to me, what have you done to? She was like, what do you mean, what have I done? He ran off.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Mate. So there was a kid in school and he would just, as soon as he got into school, he'd just leg it. He'd just go. God.
Yeah.
I often wonder where these people are now.
Mate,
I wonder where they.
The lad I've just told you a story about is doing really well. You know what I mean? He's doing really well for himself. Yeah. He works, I believe it's in agriculture. He's got like I'm not selling that very much. He works on the land and all that.
Mate.
Yeah, loads of room to run around,
Yeah, that's why he's happy. It's perfect for it, being out in the wild.
Yeah, just loads of wildlife going, stop scratching your face, mate. All right.
I remember I was a classroom assistant back in when I was studying City and Guilds community care, and they put you on little placements. So I was working in an old people's place, and I worked at a deaf school. And one of the lads there, little Gary. I mean, I say little Gary. He'd be 39 now. He was 9 at the time. And I remember I went to sit on my chair, and he had his pencil, freshly sharpened pencil, and he put it on my chair like that. And as I sat down, it went into my arse crack. This pencil, and I shot through the mate. And then I had to go and get a tetanus shot. So I had to leave. And then that night, there was a bit. It broke. The end of the pencil broke off in my arse.
Fucking hell.
So I had to go to the hospital and get this tetanus jab. But then I went. I was 18 at the time, so I went out that night and I got pissed. And then I'm like, oh fuck it. I didn't bother going in the next day. I just went, I just hated it. So I never went. I was always off. And I went back about a couple of days later, and poor Gary's little face. He thought he killed me, and I hadn't gone back. I really scarred him for life.
That's a little.
What it was when I got pissed.
What a cheeky little bastard, though, trying to do that. Do you think?
I remember, go on, sorry.
Do you think he thought you were gonna he was gonna pull it away? You know what I mean, or was it? Because
I don't know what he thought. He was 9, so he thought, "Oh, this would be funny." Because at the time, he probably had seen cartoons or whatever, and he thought I'd just probably leap up into the air and grab hold of the lights, and be swinging from the top. But he didn't realise that in real life, if you shove a pencil up someone's arsehole, chances are the end's going to snap off. Oh, mate. I remember having that same school. They had a school fete, and they said, we've got this bear costume. We want someone to walk around dressed as this bear. And I don't know what they want me to do, like just walk around being this bear at this fete. So go on in, I'll do it. And so I end up walking around on this Saturday afternoon. I'm hungover again. I'm wearing this bear suit, and all the kids are coming up and kicking me and like trying to pull my head off. They're going, it's Rich, and they're punching me in the bollocks. I was getting swarmed by these like kids, like zombies in that zombie film. Generation Z or World War Z or whatever it was, just fucking swarming. Did me in. Yeah. So kids could get in the bin.
That's a confident little 9-year-old, that.
Yeah. Little shit, little Gary. I don't know what he's doing now.
Don't know, mate. He might. Hopefully, he's not doing that.
Oh,
Definitely.
the pension factory.
Yeah. There's a bit more to this here, right? So, what is it? Reason number 5, right? You've had a run-in with a parent about a disagreement, right? They went to the school maybe 10, 30 years ago. I was probably 5 years old at my school at the time. So they must be an expert in everything to do with running an educational provider. Yeah. I've been to the pharmacist and I'm an expert on your IBS medication, right? They've not finished the rest of that sentence, but I feel like, I don't know if that's a subtle way of saying you're full of shit. But
Yeah,
you know what I mean? But yeah, I've never really had a problem at parents' evening that I can't handle, right? I think sometimes you can take a beating and own up. This has resulted in greater respect and buy-in from the kid. I've always hated the idea of being in front of a parent and not knowing what to say after they've just attacked you and you need someone else to step in. This makes them great arenas for thinking on your feet. They're also great arenas for checking out the fit parents. Okay. In my early days of teaching, I would love the year 7 and 8 ones, as the chances are the parents weren't bad looking. Saying that, a few years ago, I was at a year 11 parents' evening and my student was a lovely chap, but troubled. His mum had clearly had him when she was quite young, so even though he was 15, she was still less than 40 and a fitty, right?
Okay.
For the purpose of a mental image that would translate well to the podcast, think of Charlotte from Sex and the City, but a bit more voluptuous. Right, I don't know who that is, but they have caveated. I'm not one for celebrities, so if you're not sure who that is, just think short, big tits and brown hair.
Where's this from? The 70s?
Yeah.
Jesus.
And then it says, not Johnny Vegas, obviously. Right, she wore a top that probably revealed a little bit too much of a top half. Don't be writing women can wear what they like, etc. When you're surrounded by teenagers and staff who work with teenagers, you choose everything very carefully. I'm chatting to her son, and then I suddenly realise I'm talking to Right Said Fred tribute act that have come along for the ride.
Oh my God.
I then see she zips them away, busted. We make eye contact for a few seconds. There is so much disdain for me. There's so much disdain for me in her face in that moment. Wait until she sees the PE teacher, I thought, right? Parents' evenings are great ego boosters for parents as they get to do their speeches about the importance of this and that, and you're too polite to stop them, and the kids are either too polite to say anything, because if they do, they're going to get bollocks later. You're sitting there just cringing. Cue the rant that essentially has the theme of, I went to school so many years ago and therefore I'm an expert. One time, this greasy-haired dad, the sort that you wouldn't be surprised if he attended a sex cinema and waddled about in a wax jacket. Waddles about in a wax jacket. It's a horrible image, this. Think of a guy who sits alone in spoons. I taught his son Ari. Anyway, he sits down and exhales. Well, your subject, it's just all opinion, so, it don't really matter. What legitimate GCSE is all opinion? You're telling me you think your kid is doing a GCSE in opinions? Well, you've passed straight away, mate. Funny how you're left with fuck all and you're now on the dole, bemoaning the fact you can't afford enough for a new school shirt for your lad, whilst playing PS4 on your massive fucking telly and smoking weed all day. They've obviously not said that, right? Otherwise, it'd be like,
yeah, but that was what they were thinking.
Yeah, clear your desk, please. Right. What they've come back at him with, I think, is pretty good here. They said, I replied, to be honest, no, it's not. Constructing an argument is important, but it's how you use the data to construct it that is the most important element. There's also the fact that 60% of the course is all about pure knowledge. If your kid gets this, he can definitely exceed the target of a D. However, he is so bone idle, he can't even be bothered to put the work in to give me an argument. And before anyone says anything about, well, that's a glorified opinion, all subjects are glorified version of things. English, glorified reading and writing. Maths, glorified adding up. Technology, glorified putting up a shelf. Art, glorified colouring in. And geography, glorified colouring in. Luckily, the mum saw sense and the kid just recoiled in horror. the smile the kid gave me the next day suggesting I'd attempted to put his dad back in his coffin, which is really just a glorified box. Which that's the end of their story, right? It's kind of got a few anecdotes in it, but I enjoyed that. I think it gives people a pretty good insight into, you know, what a teacher's not saying at parents' evening, but definitely what they're thinking.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've been crying out for a story like that for 3 weeks for people going, I want like an insight on parents' evening, because I know from speaking to teachers, you know, what how they dress things up in a certain way, so it's less cutting. But I don't know. Like, I think everyone's different. Everyone's parents are different. If a teacher was very straight and it warranted them being straight about my behaviour to me mum and dad, they would fully be like, do you know what? Yeah, he needs to pull his socks up there. But you know, when they started at the very top saying you've got to face the fact that if the kids are cunt, good chances are the parent is. I can't. You know, I'm not saying that's the case every time, but you know, that is it's learned behaviour.
Of course it is. Yeah, absolutely. Normally they think the dad's an absolute hero, and I remember there was a lad, and his dad. Every time we went around there, his dad used to just bully you and pick on you and just it was just relentless banter, if you like.
Right. Yeah.
It was all the time. And he was that cunt in the van, horrible fucking wanker. Just
what was it? What was the type of ribbon he give you?
Oh, it's just constant. It's like you're a puff, you're this, you're that. All these things that you'd say in the 70s, all these horrible, sexist, racist, homophobic stuff. It was on and on and on. It was relentless, and I hated going around there. But I really liked the lad.
Yeah.
But then as he got older, he started to become his dad, and then I didn't want to be around him either. And some of the shit he'd come out with, and you're just going, oh my God. And now I see him on Facebook, and he's just become his dad.
Yeah. Has he got a...
You know, and I see pictures of his dad. His dad's a little old man now, but he's become him. He's just blown up into this massive amplified version.
Does he have a British bulldog with a Union Jack as his profile picture? Is that like his...
He's, mate, well, it's got, yeah, so there's always, you're never more than one click away from a St. George's flag, or there's like, you know, all lives matter and all that shit, and well, there's always some comment somewhere. He's just horrible, and you're like, it must be exhausting being that big a cunt.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. But it's when they fail to realise that, and it's like, do you know what? It's the world who's fucked. It's like, you know, there's a reason why you don't get invited to family dues. Okay, so you know, maybe have a think about that, and then you can come to a christening in a few years. Okay, because at this moment in time, it's like you just effort.
Mate, and then he voted Brexit, and then wonders why he can't go to his villa in Spain or whatever. Because you're a fucking idiot. You're a fucking idiot. You're an horrible racist. You didn't want brown people being able to roam around, but you thought you could just, I'll vote Brexit. That'll stop brown people coming over here. No, it stops you going over there as well, you prick. And good. I hate you.
I worked with a kid once who I worked with him for, I think it was 2 years, year and a half, something like that. He had the head on his shoulders of like an 18-year-old, right? Like that was his frame of reference to the world. And I remember one time I sat in maths with him, and he doesn't know I do comedy, right? He didn't know that, and no one at the school's ever known that, because you know it would just cause too many issues. If anything, all the kids say to me, "Sir, you're just not funny," right? All the time. It's just like, you know, you are not funny at all. And I just take the piss. But essentially, I'm sat with him, and we were talking about comedy, and I said, "Who's your favourite comedian?" I said, "Have you got any comedians that you like?" And he went, "Who's the guy that does the racist jokes?" And I was like racist jokes? I'm thinking, who's current? And he went, Bernard. I went, Bernard Manning. And he went, yeah, Bernard Manning. He was like, he's great. He's really good. And I was like, I'm pretty sure he died way before you were born. Like, you know, but he then went to go and tell me a joke about what's the difference between a black man walking into a shop and Batman, right? And I was just like, let's just do fractions. You know what I mean? Like,
Anyway,
let's draw a line under that 4, right? Because we're not doing this anymore. But yeah, that was his frame of reference.
But that's it. It is, racism and that. It is a learned thing. You don't. When you're born, you don't come out hating people from other places and people from different backgrounds and cultures. It's a learned thing. It's from the parents 9 times out of 10.
Yeah. Well,
the environment.
Yeah, and I think the idea of, like a parent not maybe acknowledging like their shortcomings, right? Because everyone's flawed, you know what I mean? I'm not saying it's just parents. There's things that I think that, my girlfriend says, well, I don't know why you think that way. That's not like anything drastic, but you know what I mean? There's just differences with people and approaches. But when you're in that position where essentially you are a role model, to a kid, if you are a massive figure in that person's life and your views they're your views, but they might not be suitable for a kid, then just keep it to yourself, or don't introduce them to that world without them getting, enough experience to kind of make decisions for himself. Because, if you're watching, I don't know, if you're watching Snatch at 8 years old, right? And then you're calling everyone pikeys in the playground the next day. Yeah. You've heard it in that and go, that's funny. But to everyone else, they're just like, yeah, mate, you can't be saying that to people. But
no. Well, there was loads of that when I was growing up. That word was everywhere. And I remember being at a gig and someone used it at a gig. There was these 2 girls that were kicking off, and he used that word, and then. And they ended up getting kicked out. And then word got back to us that their family were travellers and they were going to come down and shoot everybody. And and then we all got a phone call from I can't remember what it was, like CID. And then because it was seen as racism.
Wow.
It was under the banner of racism. Yeah. And so we had
gypsies, right? Can you say gypsies? Gypsies, all right, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
Travellers, gypsies, whatever. Right, we had them on the field opposite our house, and I live in like quite a nice area, in a sense that if people have a caravan, it's usually on the drive. But this time it was on the sports field, and there was loads of them, and they were there for about 5 days before they got shifted on. And on day 1, I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. You know what I mean? I was like, because my dad was a cop for years, and when I told him, he was like, that ain't going to end well. And I said, it might not be that bad. And by like day 3, there's like a neighbourhood watch group. Some kid had been battered coming back from school, right? They'd been taking shits in the bushes. A few places been like attempted to, kind of like break in. And then when they left, the field that it was on was just, they filled like 2 6-ton skips of just shit. And you think, you know what I mean? It's like, even if you were, say, like a traveller and you weren't doing all them things, it'd be very difficult to get away from the stereotype of it being, what people see it to be. Because, it's so prevalent, I suppose, but yeah, we've digressed here. You know what I mean? I don't want to get shot. All right? Yeah.
But that was weird. I remember there was a lad, and his parents, they were travellers, and I remember, the dad was. I liked him, but you could see, they don't take any shit. Those people, they protect they're very protective of their children and their families, and so if you say anything derogatory, or they will fucking they'll let you know that you've upset them.
Yeah.
And he used to come in. I remember he came in and he sat down, and you could just see the teacher was just shaking, like he'd say, John needs to work on his reading, needs to work on this, and his dad's like, yeah, you're right, and yeah, you do. We'll do more of that. We'll do more of that. And then the dad was saying, he goes, I can't read. I have trouble reading. He said, and this is back in the days before dyslexia and all that. So maybe John might have been a bit dyslexic, but it was, undiagnosed.
Right, but the teacher was understanding of like his dad. He wasn't like, what do you mean you can't read? Like,
yeah.
Right, okay.
His dad, it was a nice moment where the dad was, the dad understood, and And but you could see the teacher was just fucking on to get this over and done with.
Yeah.
What you saying about my boys?
Yeah. That's it's an interesting thing, but I've been trying to round off these teacher stories, right, with a teacher or the student section, and it's a bit difficult, this one, because it's mainly the teacher's voice coming through. I think the teacher seems like a good egg, right? In a sense that they seem pretty straight talking, and like they're the way they handled that parent at the end, I really like that. You know what I mean? And like not being afraid of saying, well, you know, if your kid actually tried, then they would get, you know, more, rather than it be that, I don't know, they're developing these skills. Because I think if you're putting zero accountability on someone's level of expectation and behaviour, then they're never going to like either respect you or even, you know, see it as a challenge to rise to. Because I see it too many times where a kid will get, you know, pulled up on something, they then go home and the parents then get in touch and are very defensive and protective of the kid, and if you do that enough times, it only teaches the kid, like, well, if someone tells me something that I don't agree with, all I've got to do is tell people that are in my corner, you know, family or whatnot, and they'll just sort it out for me, because, you know, it's their problem, not mine. And that for me just don't work out. And it's each to their own, and I understand everyone does it differently, but I think from a teacher point of view, I respect the fact he was just like, well, you know, you're wrong, and you know,
yeah.
You know,
and this is why. That's it. He didn't just say you're wrong. He actually backed it up with, this is why you're wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Now get out of my fucking chair, will you? I've got someone else to see.
Not wrong there then.
My dad used to do this. Like, it was funny the first year round, and then every other parents' evening, it was just like you were waiting for it to happen. So we'd sit down and they go, right, we're gonna talk about Harry, you know, talk about your son, Harry. And my dad would like look at the teacher, look at me and go, he's not my boy. That's not my son. And it was, I say, it was like, a little chuckle first time around. But, you know, when it's like year 8, year 9, year 10, you'd be like, right, okay, here we go. And,
Here comes with his joke.
Yeah. And my dad, it was more like 5 minutes for him than it was for me.
Yeah. Just he's doing his gigs.
Yeah. Just tightening it up in the car. What do you reckon? If I switch this bit around to do that there?
I remember because the mother of my kids and I, we broke up. I mean, my youngest would have been 2, maybe. So no, he was 5, and the elder one. So they were very young when we broke up. But I remember we'd have to go to parents' evenings together, and we were trying to show. And we got on really well. We just didn't work out as a couple. But we sat there because we felt there was a stigma attached to, you know, parents that weren't together anymore. Even though most people's parents have broken up, you know, that's, you know, I'm weird that my mum and dad are still together. I mean, they've hated each other down the years, but they're still together, and it's weird.
So how many years together is your mum and dad there? Like 50?
50 years.
Wow, mate, that's unreal.
Insane, isn't it? Obviously, this is what I've worked out now, that I wasn't planned. Right. And they felt they had to get married, because I'm 49. They got married a year after they met. After they got married, a year after they had me. No, a year before. They got married before. So I think mum got pregnant, and then they had to get married. I think that's what happened.
Right. Okay.
That's what it seems like.
That's impressive, though. 50 years. 50
years. And I think they just, I mean, they're old now. There's no point in breaking up. What are they going to do? You know?
You get to a point where you go, it's not worth returning each of us to the shop. You know, might as well stick it out.
Yeah. Fair. Done, mate. But I think, so we used to go to the parents' evenings, but we'd be overly kind of like, oh, that's very interesting. What do you think about that, darling? Yeah, I know, I agree. It's still that shit, really.
Parents turning up with a projector, right? Okay, this is where we see it going over the next 5 years.
This big binder full of stuff. Yeah, we really are parents. We really do care.
You're wearing a t-shirt and a tie.
Also, can we go?
Yeah. But yeah, so like, if you had to, what do you think of the teacher essentially that sent this in?
What the teacher sent the whole thing.
Yeah.
I think they've got a really great understanding of what it's actually like to be a human being, and and what it's like to be they got a good understanding of what a teacher actually. They're not like this grand. Oh, I'm a teacher. I'm teaching the kids. They've got this really good understanding of what a teacher's role really is. It's more guidance and the ridiculousness of human beings. Like, we're fucking idiots. We're animals, essentially. We shouldn't be I say this a lot, like the people go, oh, I don't feel like I fit in. Go, none of us fit in. You're not supposed to fit into this. You're supposed to be out in a field fighting and fucking and maybe eating something off the street. You're supposed to be like the cows, but we've now been shoved into this framework where, we're having to, you've seen as a good citizen if you can borrow money. Like, oh yeah, you've got a really good credit rating, so well done you. You're a really top citizen. They're making. I've said this loads. They're making train lines faster. They're making motorways wider, so we can get to and from work quicker. We can get to work quicker. They're making apartments smaller. And people are going, oh yeah, well, I'm hardly ever there. I'm always at work anyway. And you're like, listen to what you're saying. Listen to what you're saying. You don't need a big house because you're never there, because they're turning us into worker bees. And I think this teacher here has a really good understanding of the way they explained that. They could have turned around and gone, you're a lazy piece of shit, mate. Your parenting is fucking toxic and shit. And your kid is going to suffer because of you. You shouldn't even add kids. There was that great line in Parenthood where Keanu Reeves was saying, you have to have a license to catch a fish or watch TV, but they let any prick be a parent, and the beauty of that parent turning around and saying what they wanted to say, but without holding them up by the scruff of the neck, going, it's you're fucking your kid's life up. They did it in a wonderful way of knowledge. They went, no, actually it is important. They showed great poise and great calm, which is a great for a teacher to have. It was a bit questionable. Some of it was a bit questionable about the boobs and that.
Internal thoughts.
Yeah, we're obviously having an image.
Yeah.
But I think on the whole, I think this is a great teacher, to be honest.
Nice.
I think so.
That's a good.
Yeah,
I think you've rounded that off very, very nicely there.
Nice. It's funny talking about what people wore, because I really like, when I was at school, teachers dressed in a way that I found attractive. So when I was going through the hormones and all that, I did really badly at schools. I couldn't concentrate. Oh God, I can't handle it. I only worked that out recently. I went to therapy and I was talking to the therapist, and they went, oh, yeah, I can see that would be a real issue. I'm like, I know. It's not like I liked people in, I don't know. It's just like, because there's a certain way people dress, and I'm like, I really like that. Yeah. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
School went out the window. It's not. I think he's a pervert.
Yeah. Only kid turning up to lessons in a Mac. They're just like, all right, Rich, do you want to take that off? No, I'm all right. No. Just put me at the back. Yeah. Fake arms. Just before I shoot off here, right, is there anything you would like to plug? Because obviously I'm recommending to people to go and check out your podcasts now. I know we spoke about Insane in the Man Brain, but anything you want to plug?
No. Just the podcast, Insane in the Men Brain, and we've got one, Insane in the Fem Brain, which is me talking to women. There's Them Brain at the moment. There's the radio show is on the Mixcloud app. All you got to do is just get the app. It's completely free, and there's all manner of radio shows and DJ sets and all sorts on there. It's a really good app to have. So, and it's called the Tuned Up Time Machine on Islington Radio.
Sweet.
I'm on. I am Rich Wilson on Twitter. I am Rich Wilson on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, but no one uses that anymore. Come on, it's dead, isn't it? It's just your mum doing IQ tests. And then I'll be gigging. I've got a website as well, richwilsoncomedy.com, and all my dates are on there. If you want to come and see me, it's all on there.
Sweet.
So, nice one for having me. Thanks for having me.
Mate, no worries. It's been an absolute pleasure. Lovely chatting.
Lovely. Yeah. Great, man.
I'm coming back with season 2, hopefully this year, right? Because I've got to finish the first one at 20 episodes, take some time off, recoup. But I'd love to get you back on.
Yeah, please, that'd be great, man. Yeah, please do.
Nice one. I'll
as well, get you on my podcast. I've forgotten to switch the thing's off, so it keeps pinging. Sorry about that.
That's all right. I'll just edit that out. But I'd love to at some point. I'll dive,
let's do it.
pick off some of the scabs of under nines football.
Yeah, we'll do it.
But I'll add in all your handles and whatnot into the show notes. But yeah, thank you very much, mate, for coming on.
My pleasure, man. Look after yourself.
Yeah, nice one. Hopefully I'll see you around at a gig soon enough. So there you go. You now know exactly what a teacher thinks when it comes to parents' evening. You know, you've got to read between them lines, haven't you? And I think the teacher that sent that in was tremendous, especially the way in which they handled that parent towards the end. Because as Rich said, you know, they could have just said, you know what, you're a shit parent, told them to do one. But the way in which they constructed that argument, even the kid was like, yeah, my dad's a div. Brilliant. So thank you very much to the teacher that sent that in. And how great is Rich Wilson? I mean, if that doesn't make you want to go and check out his podcasts, I don't know what will. I'd say definitely go and check them out regardless. They are very good. And there'll be a guest on there that you'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe he's spoken to him. And they're just interesting conversations because it's not the type of thing that people, more so now, are getting comfortable opening up and talking about. But it's not something that you're going to hear on the radio because they're just very in-depth, heartfelt conversations. But definitely worth checking out. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please do spread it about online, tell your mates about it. If you're listening to it on Apple Podcasts, please just leave us a little review, maybe even a nice comment. Just, anything you can do to kind of help spread the word. It all helps more than you will ever know, I can promise you. Because the support it's been getting from week one has been great. And, we're coming towards that final part of the first term now. So it'd be nice to finish strong as well. And then when I come back with a second term, I'm, delivering it to you guys and a few more people who are, excited to get some new stories, new guests, new episodes. So yeah, anything you can do to help spread the love, I would much appreciate it. Next week, I'm back with a brand new episode, and my guest is Eric Rushton, who is the former Leicester Mercury Comedian of the Year. I don't know who won it for this year, but Eric definitely won it last year, and buzzing to have him on. I know we actually gigged together about 3 weeks ago, and I was pissing my pants watching him. So I thought, you know what, I need to get him on the show. So it'll be very interesting to chat to him, hear about his school days, because the story that we're going over has come in from a teacher who's on teacher training, their first day of teacher training, and they've ended up in quite a rough school. So something to look forward to for next Friday. But yeah, until then, as ever, look after yourselves and take it easy. The Staff Room Podcast is produced by me, Harry Stakini, artwork by Poppy Spinks, and the soundtrack by James McGraw.